All right, welcome to another episode of the NAESP Principal Podcast. I'm Dr. Andy Jackson. I'm hosting today, and I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about the Centers for Advancing Leadership, and I have some amazing people, good friends of mine here with us today. I have Dr. Ryan Daniel. What's up?
Hey, friends.
All right. And she is a fellow Center for the Diversity Leadership, and she's also principal at Foote Elementary in Maryland. We also have Liz Garden. What's up, Liz?
Hi, Andy.
All right. So she is a fellow as well, Center for Innovative Leadership, Henry P. Clough Elementary in Massachusetts. So what's up? So we were laughing right before we did this, and that's a perfect example of how we roll, right?
Yes.
Jokes and having fun, because that's what it's all about, right? So in this case, and I'm going to start off right away with something fun, is we were talking about sound effects and how sound effects can really add humor to things. So I don't know, in this podcast, we're going to have sound effects, but that may be something we think about, the Principal Podcast.
Take it up a notch. Yeah, step those NAESP podcasts up.
So listeners out there, what kind of sound effects would you add? So Ryan, what kind of sound effects would you add?
Oh, my favorite. Do-do-do-do. It's definitely my favorite sound effect.
That's perfect. All right, Liz, what kind of sound effects would you do?
I think I like the the drums with the joke, but
yes.
I want to have that.
Yes, I just want the applause, just get that applause. But anytime someone says I'm good, just like, yeah, everyone, shh, it's a big thing. All right, I love it. So, with innovation, diversity, there's so much we can get into here. But by chance, we're all meeting up because we're in Arlington, Virginia here. We're at the National School Advocacy Conference, and we have all these leaders from K-12, and we're super excited with NAESP and NASSP to be advocating for schools this week. And right away, we're starting to talk about what kind of connections can we make to your work in the different centers. We brought these centers in place based on requests and the needs that our members have with NAESP. And I don't know who wants to start first. What kind of immediate connections do you think it makes with advocacy in the work for your centers?
I think in particular for the Center for Diversity Leadership, it allows those that their voice may not be as loud or it has been suppressed, it gives them an opportunity to create a network, to have a hub of resources, but then it also allows those leaders that may lead and are trying to navigate different cultures, differences in their communities, to get some resources and strategies to use. What I love the most about the Center for Diversity Leadership, it takes that word diversity and it makes it not just about race, not just about class, but understanding that as school leaders, we're leading so many different types of buildings. And I heard someone say it today, sometimes we don't know what's coming in the door. And so our skill set sometimes has to change. And so what I have appreciated that we've been able to do with the Center for Diversity Leadership is just add more tools to a leader's toolbox of being able to support communities and stakeholders that they may be familiar with and they may understand their backgrounds, but then ones that they don't understand their backgrounds.
Right. So you threw a lot out there. We'll come back to that, right? Mm-hmm. All these tools and what can you provide as far as resources, especially in an area that a lot of people may be nervous about or may not know what to do about, right?
Yeah, not the easy conversations.
No, but that's why you're here. That's what leaders do, right?
Absolutely.
All right, Liz, what do you think?
Well, I think, being a co-fellow with Scott McLeod for the Center for Innovative Leadership, one of the things that we have been trying to do is really reach out and connect and find principals across the country who are doing innovative things, but maybe don't have the resources, but so they're thinking outside of the box, right? And I think coming here, advocating, it's super important that if we want education to look different and it needs to look different, and we need to let our lawmakers understand that we need innovation to have innovative schools. We need resources, we need support, we need to almost also been given permission to think differently and to do school differently. I mean, we've had some amazing conversations with principals across the country, and I'm excited for us to keep sharing that out with everybody. But a lot of what we've talked about is that leaders have had to kind of go against the what the norm is, I think being here, that's the message I know I want to share with our Massachusetts lawmakers is like, let us, we know what we're doing, and let us try different things, but, support us and give us the resources that we need to do that. And like I said, the permission, it goes back to that permission, because oftentimes, as leaders, we feel like, we have to, we have this accountability, and we have to, focus obviously on achievement, but there are ways to do that, that aren't always kind of like in the principal playbook. That's what I'll say.
Right. Everyone thinks that when you become the boss, so to speak, that you can do whatever you want, right? And then you become the boss, you realize like, no, you can't. You can't. And you're afraid to, you're nervous, you second guess everything, and you don't really know what to do a lot of times. But I think you're right when it comes down to how we can advance education forward. We have to be bold, we have to be innovative, we have to try new things, and we have to include everybody. And I think when we send that message that we are doing those things, that we want to push things forward, it's not like we're sitting around letting schools fall apart. Then I think if we can send that message to lawmakers, I think they realize like they don't have to necessarily push so hard, but give us the funds and the resources to let us do our thing. Schools every day are trying to innovate and come up with new strategies. And one of the things I really worry about is that we don't have the time, or we don't have, like you said, the space, because someone else is telling us what to do. And when I look at the teachers in the classroom, I mean, most teachers in the classroom, they know what to do with their kids. And so we just have to give more funds, more resources in the classroom to do that. So what do you think as far as one thing in your center that we can help advance forward? I know we talked some things really initially, but what do you think? Innovation, diversity, what's one thing that's really on the top of your mind sort of at this point?
I think one of the things that Xavier Reed and I are doing in the Center for Diversity Leadership is trying to equip leaders with almost like an equity playbook and a tool that they can use when they're thinking of pre-service week, when they're thinking of professional development to offer to their communities or their staff, when they're trying to decide how to do a needs assessment and to determine like what diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like. We have recognized that our center has the tough conversations, and they're not always easy to have. And let's just call it what it is. Depending on where you sit at in the world, you can say certain words or you cannot. And we both recognize that, being in two completely different parts of the world. So what we are really working on is making sure that we can create something that leaders, a good leader loves a protocol, right? They love something that they can use as like a basis of like a thought or an idea. So that's what we've been really working on, to just give a leader who is trying to tread lightly and navigate something that is very difficult, just giving them a little cushion or umbrella of something that they can like use to ground some of their work. And we've been working a lot with the Mid-Atlantic Consortium, and they've been giving us a lot of resources and research to tie into some of the topics that we want to include in our equity playbook. So that for us has been like the top priority.
That's great. What do you think, Liz?
I think one of the things that Scott and I have been trying to do is, when you think about innovative leadership, that's big. It's only and some people are actually, I think, afraid of, to let themselves think about what that means to bring innovation into their schools and into their leadership styles. So we've been trying to kind of share things that are like little nuggets, right? Like student agency, we talk about a lot, right? For example, like helping leaders see that there are small changes that you can make to help push student agency forward and, we just had a conversation the other day about taking something as simple as, when you look at a lesson, right? Who's doing all the talking, right? And that's like, some people might say like, well, that's not innovative. Well, kind of is, because a lot of times we see in schools that it's still that teachers are doing a lot of the talking, and students, we know that who's doing the learning are the people that are doing the talking and the action and in being invested and involved in their learning process. So that's like a very simple, small, innovative, strategy, I feel, if you will, that leaders can work on in their schools, and that so really just trying to kind of help people see that it's small little things that can happen, and then when you put all of those things together, it can have a big impact. But that innovation is not this big, scary different thing. Yeah. And then it's like simple little things, little nuggets that, that we can all try out, both with our staff, and then so that our staff then will do that with their students.
And I think that's the great thing about the centers is that they're small changes to kind of what Liz said, big impact. So we each have our own center that we're making a small change with a leader. But if a leader really takes full, I'm trying to find the right word, leverage all of the different centers that we have. Just imagine how strong, now I'm talking to you, leader, imagine how strong your capacity is as a leader if you tapped into the Center for Diversity Leadership, Center for Innovative, if you're a female leader. Like if we're tapping into all of these, you kind of come out like Superman, Superwoman, because you've now made small changes to have this big impact as a leader. So although our centers are so different and unique in their own ways, they're small changes that if a leader utilizes it and just reads an email, taps into one of, the hubs and come into one of the community of practice, then it's a big impact on their leadership.
Right. I think the point you made is even if you change one little thing, and leadership is a development. It's sort of an evolution over time of your skills, and sometimes you feel like you're growing a lot. Sometimes you feel like you're growing a little, but if you're just moving forward in one way, and I think for me, especially if you're just thinking about these different topics, thinking about how diversity in leadership, what that looks like, what that means as far as being a leader, helping promote others as leaders, what that looks like in your workforce and the teachers that you work with. And I think even just being reflective, I think goes a long way, because then you can make your own changes too. So it's not like when you work with these centers, like it's like the centers are telling you do these 5 things and then you will be better and more innovative or whatever. It's no, let's think about these topics. Let's reflect. Let's come up with some ideas. Let's share what's working, some best practices.
Yeah. And also I think I know we talk a lot about in the Center for Innovative Leadership, like we want to highlight and we want to like elevate and celebrate. Like there are leaders doing these amazing things, and I know I learn every time I talk to a different leader, I learn something. And I think it's important because I feel that, it's still, I hear that all the time where we talk about like principals being isolated and being, but I mean, like we can all learn from each other and, make those small changes. So I think it's super important that we're highlighting all the amazing things that are happening in all different parts.
Because the work can be lonely as a leader. And I think that is the greatest thing that NAESP does, is take that load or that idea of you have to be alone. You're alone in this work. Like that's what we say. I mean, the saying is principals, friends don't let friends become principals, right? Because the work is hard. Let's just call it what it is.
Nobody was around to tell me that.
Nobody, right? Me neither, Liz. I wish if I knew now.
It's a calling. You've been here.
But what the centers, what this organization does is that it gives you a crew. Like it gives you a hub of other leaders that are different than you. Liz and I have been connected for I don't even know how many years now. Long time. And we're in 2 different places. And when we see each other, it's like a hey sis, like it's old friends, and we're learning from each other. We don't see each other every day, but we're celebrating each other. We're watching each other's accomplishments. We see that they do something good. I know what she's passionate about. Books, reading, writing. So if I need an idea, my reading team comes to me like, hey, we're thinking of, I'm like, give me a second. I have to do some research. What's Liz doing? Right? But that's what this does. It gives you people, because I think that what we learned in principal school is like nothing that we need now. We're learning more from these opportunities and people that we in spaces that we have the opportunity to be a part of.
So as we start wrapping up, connecting these 2 centers specifically, something to think about is, are we listening to all the voices in the room? Are we giving, not just sit at the table, but are we like promoting this conversation so that people feel comfortable and safe speak their truth and speak their mind and share ideas. And I think really making my connection is always that, you know, if we're not making people feel safe that they can contribute ideas, then we're not truly capitalizing on the innovations that can come from all the people in the room, right? It's the same voices that are going to say the same things, and then you're only going to change in those same ways. You could be missing these amazing opportunities elsewhere, right? What are your response on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, again, that's why I get excited now being part of this center, that I'm making connections with people I've never met before. You know, I just talked to a principal way over in California that we interviewed him for a podcast, and I learned so much in the short time that I talked to this middle school principal who I would have never had a connection with. And I'm going to take back and try some of the things that he's doing in his school, like, and how I can do that in my school. You know, like it is all about connecting. And I feel like that's like a goal of mine, as I want us to kind of continue to keep trying to pull more people, you know, into this connection piece, like, you know, and whatever center. And I do agree that like we should be even doing within these centers, even more connecting within like, and sending that message to people that it's not like you have to kind of choose and be like,
one or the
oh,
other.
I'm here. It's like you can take
your,
a little
your
bit
Avengers
from everything.
unite.
Yes.
Like,
Like united, but
Where's our sound effect for that?
Yeah, right.
Do, 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 do.
I was on cue. I was ready.
That's right.
But you know, that connectedness and that piece of like, do I feel safe to have this conversation is something that has truly been a focus for ours in the Center for Diversity Leadership, because we do not always get the highest number of members to come to our webinars or our chats. And we had to let go of the expectation that we were going to have the same number as women in leadership, right? It's easy for somebody to find themselves in the women in the Center for Women in Leadership. It's harder for diversity leadership.
Take more of a risk.
It takes more of a risk to do it. And I remember very quickly we had one kind of Zoom meetup, and there was someone, she was participating, but she was participating in the chat, and we were going through it, and the last 10 minutes of it, she turned her camera on, and she said that you all made me feel safe enough in this environment to like come off camera and to boldly like join the conversation and take the risk. And for us, it was like, okay, we're doing good. We're making sure that people feel comfortable, and that just because we're leading the work and curating the content, we are not the work, and getting other voices in it. So that is something that's truly been, I don't know if we're reaching as many members as we can. So we've been really intentional of like what that reach looks like and which members are we, you know, targeting, who should come to Center for Diversity meetups, right? Is it just our principals of color? Is it just, you know, is it those principals that are leading schools that are different than them? Like what's the
well, you tell us then. You tell us, what do you think?
And so we say it's for everyone, right? Because every school is a rainbow, right? There is, you know, diversity in every school. It's just what that diversity looks like. You know, I am a Black woman unapologetically, and I lead, and I'm in a school district where we are 86% African American, right? But that's just my scope. Then I come out of my school district into the rest of the state of Maryland, and they don't all look like me. So I still need support on how to navigate in those spaces, right? When we talk about class, when we talk about sexual orientation, all of that is in the Center for Diversity Leadership, and everybody deserves a seat at that table.
So we have 5 different centers, right? So I'll make sure people understand that we have Innovative Leadership, Center for Diversity Leadership, Center for Middle Level Leadership, Women in Leadership, and Early Learning Leadership are new ones. So there's a lot of different ways to find your voice and to find some passion of yours, right? You can learn more at naesp.org/CAL and be involved. So if you see any of the fellows, make sure you literally go up to them and say like, hey, I have an idea, or how do I be involved? Or hit us up on social media or in person. What's your final thoughts on your center? What do you want people to know?
Well, I was just I'm gonna say every time I'm with Ryan, I feel like she is my queen of like the bumper sticker or the T-shirt statement, and like I'm just gonna reiterate what she just said, that we as fellows, we are leading and we're curating all of this information and this content, but we are not the work. And I'm like that. So that was like so well said. I mean, because that's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm helping to kind of gather this information, to share it out, to like elevate other principals' voices, but we all are involved in that work, and so I think that was well said.
And I think the biggest thing, and I hope that we in this podcast are a great example of that. Like the principalship is lonely, but you're not alone. And like in this, just right now of Liz and I, and then even with Andy, just in this moment, walking away from this small podcast with so many different new ideas and perspectives. So like you're not alone in the work. It may be lonely moments, but utilize the centers, the organization as an opportunity to, do it with somebody else, because you're not alone.
Well, on that note, Liz, Ryan, my friends, I appreciate you so much. And thanks for joining us today. And I can't wait to see what else is coming from the centers.
Thank you.
Yes.